Okay, looks like we are in. So, hi everybody, welcome to today's session of UPSC Buffet by Gallant IAS. So, we'll be discussing about 2022 environment and ecology questions. So, there are a lot of insights I need to give you upfront. Basically, the question that is being set in that particular year was mostly around testing your logic, the way the options are being set, and everything was more in line with testing your logic rather than your knowledge. So this is the kind of trend UPSC follows. Some years there will be fully factual things like in 2024 and partly in 2023 as well. But a mix of both is what UPSC is aiming for, and that is what has happened in 2025. So take cues from this paper, because this is very important, because you can actually apply a lot of logic here, and you can take some logic here and apply it in the upcoming examination as well. So that's about it, and we'll get started right away. First of all, certain species of which of the following species organisms are well known as cultivators of fungi? Here is a key fact. I've always said in the outlier series video that anything or any organism as in an organism like an insect that is capable of doing things in a human like way, either having a colony setup or having a social hierarchy or even cultivating, which is something only humans does, and some animals in the wild also does that to a smaller scale. So anything that resembles human like intelligence, human activities or human like behavior would mostly boil down to two insects, basically two insects. Either it could be ant or it could be honeybee. So these two are the insect species that resembles or that mimic human kind of behavior. Not that they learned it from humans, but they have a lot of similarities with social structure, their behavioral, etc., with humans. So that's the logic you need to have. That's something that is actually very useful in the upcoming next year's question as well. In 2023 also, same logic was there. The question was about waggle dance. This was in 2022. So developing that logic would have easily gotten you that answer right away. So that's the only logic you need to have. Other than that, there is no elimination or anything needed. Just that you need to know that human-like intelligence is a characteristic trait of ants and honeybees. If in the option ant is given, it would be the right answer. If honeybees are given, then honeybees would be the answer. If both are given, you need to look for things like more social behavior or their kind of hierarchical stuff. If more social, hierarchy-oriented things are given, then it would most likely be honeybee. So that's the only thing. It's a very important logic you need to have. So answer is A, ant. So that's the first question for you. Moving on, next one, climate action tracker. This is slightly on the difficult side, especially because the kind of approach we need to have relies on our accumulated knowledge and awareness. So when you're preparing environment, we'll be most likely coming across IPCC, obviously, UNFCC, yes. And we will be dealing or learning quite a lot of things about IPCC, UNFCC, etc. And there are other environmental conservation activities undertaken by UNEP and World Bank. Things like that are there. Then there are organizations like Conservation International, Wetland International, BirdLife International, things like that. So those or institutions we will be coming across every now and then, and we will be knowing quite a few things about them also. So in this, a climate action tracker, something of that sort, something related to the progress of climate action and that the contributions or the status of climate change activities. Activities that actually counters the climate change. Something of that scale will most likely be, if they come under IPCC or UNFCC, will most likely be aware for us. And if you haven't heard about this thing and you have studied this IPCC, UNFCC and UNEP for that matter, because it's part of our static portion, and you haven't heard about something like this, then most likely the option will most likely be the one that is beyond this. Something less famous, maybe a loose held coalition of organizations doing this particular research, something of that sort will be there. So go with that logic that you need to have a certain awareness about IPCC, UNFCC and UNEP and the certain actions taken by them. If in your understanding no such thing comes with the name climate action tracker, then most likely all the options with that will be wrong, and the one that remains will be the right answer. This is how we eliminate it and arrive at the answer. To actually approach this question this way, you need to have understanding about IPCC, UNFCCC and UNEP. That's the only thing you need, and have a faith in your knowledge, and that confidence really helps. So this is how you make this answer. This is how you arrive at this answer, and that's A. There is also another, greenhouse gas bulletin, things like that. There are a lot of index related to climate change, and UPSC will be asking who is the body responsible for publishing it. Simple question will be there, either you know or you don't know. So for such questions, you need to study IPCC, UNFCCC, and greenhouse gas bulletin. Those sort of indices as well as bodies and their works and indices possible. So we can eliminate such options and arrive at the answer. Moving on, climate group. This is fully logical if you ask me. There is very little knowledge that we will be needing, just logic and general understanding. First of all, this climate group. If you have come across that in current affairs, very good, you will be easily getting the answer. But the issue is that the options are been set in a very factual way. But there are options that has been set in a way that we could eliminate few and arrive at the answer. So we'll go by the statements one by one. Climate Group is an international non-profit organization that drives climate action by building large networks and runs them. Makes perfect sense. Okay, Climate Group, a body like that, making a non-profit body driving climate action, building networks and running them. The name and the explanation makes sense. So there is nothing wrong with this, but we'll see. International Energy Agency, in partnership with Climate Group, launched Global Initiative EP100. Okay, International Energy Agency. And think about the mandate of International Energy Agency. They are more focused on safe and safe, predictable supply of energy across the globe. And whether it be mostly they are focusing on non-renewable energy. But they will obviously be a stakeholder in this climate group and climate participation, because they are one of the major polluting supply chains in the network. So IEA, in partnership with Climate Group, launched Global Initiative EP100 is possible, but we have to look for it more. Maybe possible. I cannot eliminate it right away. So that's there. We are looking for a general statement so that we can get that thing right and move our way up from that. So EP100 brings together leading companies committed to driving innovation in energy efficiency and increasing competitiveness while delivering on emission gas reduction goals. Okay, emission reduction goals. Again, these two are very much in line. So the only doubt is that leading companies committed. Okay, that's the only thing that's very specific. But these two statements make sense. They can be clubbed. Some Indian companies are members of EP100. Indian companies are around the globe, and there is a good chance that such an Indian company will be there. So this is the most general statement that we can take it as right. So this seems very harmless and very generalistic, so we can take 4 as right. So eliminate options that doesn't have 4. So we have eliminated C. That's one option down. Now, International Energy Agency is the secretariat to Under 2 coalition. You might not have heard about Under 2 coalition, but decipher that word. Try to deconstruct that word, Under 2. What would that signify? Under 2 coalition most likely be aligning with keeping the global temperature rise less than 2 degrees Celsius compared to the pre-industrial levels. So that could be the Under 2 keyword meaning. That could be the thing. Other than that, what could Under 2 mean? It's either be about children or something of that sort. But Under 2 coalition is basically what the agency that is responsible for. That's a coalition, a loose coalition of intergovernmental bodies and others to keep the emissions or the global temperature rise to less than 2 degrees Celsius. And for that matter, will IEA be the secretariat? That's the question. There are other bodies, even International Renewable Energy Agency will be there. So if such bodies exist, and why should IEA be the one hosting the secretariat? That's the trickiest thing. These two doesn't align well. The interest of IEA and interest of Under 2 coalition doesn't really match. Only if you know that Under 2 coalition means it is regarding keeping that 2 degrees Celsius upper limit in regards to global temperature rise. So we can eliminate this. And that's how we can actually arrive at the answer as B. Okay. So this is the logic that you need to have. Even if you don't know under 2 correlation, what does that mean? You try to think about what could be under 2. Okay, what's the significance of 2? So significance of 2 is keeping the global temperature within that range. So that's the thing. That's the basic knowledge you need to have, and we can easily arrive at the answer. It's not that easy in actual exam setting, because that's the 5th statement, and you will be thinking a lot about these two factual things and think that okay, this cannot be attempted and things like that. But this is the key. If you could work on this, and that's how the option has been set, eliminating that gives you the answer right away. So UPSC is most definitely not checking your knowledge or anything. It's just that UPSC wants to know whether you know the mandate of IEA. Knowing the mandate of the IEA meaning that you need to know the characteristic of that particular agency. What are they focusing on? What are their interests? Things like that. This is how you study any body, any agency. Understand their interest, how it is aligned, whether it's pro-conservation, pro-emission reduction, or pro-production. So those sort of things helps you in eliminating these contradictory bodies when given in a single statement. So that's how we arrive at the answer as eliminating 5. We arrive at the answer as B. Okay. Moving on. If this is slightly easier question, if you can, if you don't overthink, you can get the answer right away. It's just a matter of 30 to 40 seconds. If rainforest and tropical forest are lungs of the earth, they are giving a metaphor. So if rainforest and tropical forest are lungs of the earth, okay, what does that mean? Meaning that they produce oxygen or maintain the oxygen balance, oxygen carbon dioxide balance. Then surely wetlands functions as its kidneys. They are saying that okay, if that's the case, then wetlands are its kidneys. So what could be the best best following, which function on the following serves the best role of a kidney in terms of wetlands? That's the only thing we need to know. We know what kidneys does. They filter the impurities, and they filter the impurities. Basically what they are doing is filtering the impurities, maintaining the osmotic balance, pressure balance, things like that. So what they does is, first of all, filtering the impurities. Kidneys are basically filters. So that's the keyword we are looking for. Water cycle in wetlands involves surface runoff, subsoil percolation and evaporation. This is true, but it doesn't really explain any of the kidney function. So that is gone. Algae form the nutrient base upon which fish, crustaceans, mollusks, birds, reptiles thrive. This is a description of wetland function, not the function of wetland function. Okay, this is how they work. That's it. But it is not connected to this as well. We are gone. Wetlands play a vital role in maintaining sedimentation balance and soil stabilization. Yeah. That makes sense, because even kidneys does that as a secondary function. As I have said, that kidneys not just they filter it, they maintain the osmotic balance, the other nutrient balance in the bloodstream, etc. So that's something they do, but that's not their primary function. So this could be right, but moving on. Aquatic plants absorb heavy metals and excess nutrient. Basic filtration function. So compared to this seems more probable, and this seems more fitting for the kidney function of wetland. So that's how we arrive at the answer, because kidneys are basically filtering. The secondary function is same. If this statement was not there and some other random statement was there, this could have been taken as right. But since we have got a more appropriate option, we should obviously be going with this. So focus on the primary function of any ecosystem and look for an option that best fit that primary function. If that primary function is not there, then go for the secondary function and the option that correlates with the secondary function. That's it. In the context of WHO air quality guidelines, consider the following statement. This question is doable, but it has a slight element of risk that I'll explain now. The 24-hour mean of PM 2.5 should not exceed 15 micrograms per meter cube, and the annual mean of PM 2.5 should not exceed 5 microgram per meter cube. Strict numbers, no idea. So that's it. Maybe right, maybe wrong, but no idea. We cannot do anything with that statement. In a year, the highest level of ozone pollution occurred during the periods of inclement weather. If you know that, ozone pollution happens when there is maximum insolation receiving. When we have maximum insolation and less cloud cover, then the ozone pollution is at its maximum, because ozone disintegrates and it can cause ozone pollution and ozone related health hazards to people as well. This happens during long summer time where there is high insolation coming, and that's why high insolation and low cloud cover. In inclement weather, where there is much rainfall, like all winds happening, too much cloud formation, this goes against the ozone pollution. For ozone pollution to happen, we need high pressure or high insulation systems and not inclement weather. So this is wrong. So 2 is gone. So we have arrived at 1, 3, 4 and 4. So all we have to look for, okay, excessive ozone in the air can trigger asthma. This is obviously true. Anyways, you don't have to look for that as well. We have eliminated 2. So yeah, we are left with A and B. The only thing we need to look for is whether this is right or wrong. PM10 or particulate matter 10 can penetrate the lung barrier and enter the bloodstream. Is it true? Okay, if you know by knowledge that it's not there, that is there. But one other way to think about it is that in order to enter the bloodstream or lung barrier, particles have to be smaller. And are there any other particulate matter that is smaller than PM10? Yes, we have PM 2.5. So PM10 wouldn't have actually entered the bloodstream. Something smaller than that, if existing, in this case there exists PM 2.5. So there is a good chance that it's the PM 2.5 that is capable of penetrating the lung barrier and entering the bloodstream, and not PM 10. So that's the logic, and we can eliminate 3 and we'll arrive at the answer as 1 and 4. So this is how we arrive at the answer. You don't have to know anything about this, whether or not that figure is right or not. But working on the options, you can easily arrive at the answer. Don't think that UPSC will be giving only 1, only 2, and what will you do in those scenarios. In those scenarios, the level of questions will be different, and UPSC has actually moved away from that trend in 24 and 25. So we will be seeing more elimination possible questions rather than only 1 and only 2. Even in the only 1, only 2 scenario, we will be easily arriving at a 50-50, and thereby we can actually take a risk. So it's perfectly fine. So that's about it. Then moving on. Gucci, sometimes mentioned in the news, is consider the following statements. Okay, Gucci, we have actually this is in the current affair. So only thing I knew was it was a fungus, and I didn't know whether it grows in Himalayan region or any other region. It's a fungus, that's known. Okay, so just keep an eye on the species or plants or any other organisms that has got a particular naming. For example, Gucci is related to fungus, then botulinum is related to bacteria, things like that. So having a connection really helps. Cordyceps, these sort of things are also fungus. So it's a fungus, that's a right statement. Obviously we could eliminate these 2, and it grows in some Himalayan forest areas. Okay, maybe that's the specialty, that might be the specialty. It is commercially cultivated in the foothills of northeastern state. Oh, this is very unlikely. Commercial cultivation and the foothills of Himalayas of northeastern India, that's a very less likely scenario. So that's gone, and we are left with obviously one only and 1 and 2. So the possibility of something like this is maybe a rare or high value species. So something of that sort growing in the Himalayan forest area, that to a fungus which actually grows on well-fed or high moisture environment. This is slightly possible, and also it says that it grows in some Himalayan forest only, not that it grows across the Himalayan forest range. So we can actually take this as a right statement only, and we can arrive at the answer as C. So that's how we deal with that question. Moving on, next one. The question is about polyethylene terephthalate, that is PET basically. So it's widespread use in our daily life. Consider the following statements. Its fibers can be blended with wool and cotton fibers to reinforce their properties. Since it's a plastic and it's very much doable, so that's very possible. So that's very possible, and this seems very harmless, so that's there. Then containers made of it can be used to store any alcoholic beverage. That begs the question, any alcoholic beverage, you can imagine the kind of alcoholic beverages that's found across the world. They will have varying pH levels, varying physical and chemical properties, and there is a reason why beers are served in glass bottles even now, or cans. They are not served in plastic bottles. So that could be a reason. There could be a reason that plastic bottles, the usual PET bottles, doesn't tolerate all alcoholic beverages. One example is beer. Beer is served in cans or bottles. That's what we see all the time. So this could be a wrong statement, giving that it's any. So this could be a wrong statement, and I could eliminate options with 2. So that's 2 are gone. Now, bottles made of it can be recycled into other products. Obviously, that's possible. We can recycle it. We actually, the first line of recycling happens with shredding them into small pellets, then remolding it. Other than that, you might have seen videos where people actually make strings out of these bottles, and they use it for other purposes that need strings. So this is also possible. 3 seems very likely. Articles made of it can be easily disposed by incineration without causing greenhouse gas emission. This is a plastic we are talking about. Any plastic that the issue with plastic is that they are not easy to dispose, and any activity that aims to dispose them will be having greenhouse gas emissions. So that's the basic thing. So that is gone. This is gone. This is right, and this is wrong. So basically we are left with 1 and 2 is gone, and 4 is gone. We are left with 1 and 3. This is how you arrive at the answer. Look for this extreme statement. Once more, look for this extreme statement. Can be recycled, possible, and can be easily disposed, very extreme, without causing greenhouse gas emission. It's a plastic we are talking about. Any plastic, any incineration will be emitting greenhouse gas emissions, or any other emissions. Okay, so that's how we arrive at the answer, and that's it. Moving on. Which of the following is not a bird? 2 ways to approach this question. If you have come across the UPSC PYQ, I think in 2016 or 2017, same question was asked in a different way. In that, the option was given as golden mahseer. The question was about golden mahseer. What was it? The question was that. So golden mahseer is a protected species of fish, not bird. It's a protected species of fish which is found across the rivers, and their numbers are going down because of pollution and over exploitation, things like that. So golden mahseer is a fish, and this was asked by UPSC in 2-3 years ago, and the question was framed differently as, what is golden mahseer? Is it a fish, or is it a reptile, or something like that? So just going by that PYQ itself, you can get to the answer that it's the only one that's not a bird. That's one thing. Also, naming of birds is something that UPSC has always been keen about. Look for these names: Indian nightjar, spoonbill, white-ibis. Remember these names. These are birds. So if UPSC asks another question, because this golden mahseer was taken directly from a PYQ, so this option could be taken for other upcoming examinations. So look for this: Indian nightjar, spoonbill, white-ibis. These are all birds. Okay, keep that understanding. And also one more thing: generally naming of birds would be like frogmouth, or minivet, minivet, and marmot, things like that. Those sort of names are actually synonymous with birds. It's not always applicable. There could be some exception, some reptile be given that name. So keep that eye on that. Indian nightjar, all, the naming of birds are somewhat like this. So there is a common pattern for birds' name. So you can actually work on that and create a intuition on your mind. Also, I highly recommend that, but just have an idea that these sort of birds or these sort of species that UPSC has already asked, where they belong, what are they? Just go through that. So golden mahseer is still relevant. Questions could be asked. So that's it. Moving on. Again, this is slightly on the easier side, especially with the options. Without the option, this could have been slightly more difficult, because alfalfa and amaranth are not very commonly heard. Clover also is, we don't really know about it. So that's the reason why this has become slightly difficult, but the options are set in a way that there is elimination possible. So first one, which of the following are nitrogen fixing? Obviously nitrogen fixing meaning that there should be a legume, and the most famous legume we know is chickpea. So options without chickpea can be eliminated. Instantly we got to the 50-50. Very easy. See, instantly we got to 50-50. From that we could know that, okay, we have to make a choice between clover or purslane or spinach. We know that spinach is a leafy vegetable, and it doesn't come under the legume category. And so since spinach doesn't come under a legume category, we can actually eliminate that and actually arrive at the answer as A. Okay, that's the easy way to approach it. look for the species we know, and luckily 2 options got instantly cancelled, and we have to work with only this. We have arrived at 50-50. Then eliminate the spinach, knowing that it's a leafy vegetable and not a legume. So that's it. We arrive at the answer as A. Okay, moving on. Next one. This is actually even now relevant, especially in mains if you are writing marine conservation or technology assisted conservation efforts. Okay, coral restoration, things like that. So biorock technology is often in one of that often talked about in which one of the following. Okay, development of restoration. This is very factual only. I don't have to go through the logic because this was very much in news back then, and even today this was in news. If I'm right, Zoological Survey of India and Gujarat Forest Department has developed this technology where they actually create artificial reefs for corals to attach on and develop. So through this technology we can actually renew or replant the lost or damaged or bleached coral reefs and restore the ocean ecosystem. So that's one way you can do it. And so this is the answer: restoration of damaged coral reefs. So that's it. Okay, moving on. The next one will be Miyawaki method. This was very much in news actually. I think mainly even in Kerala, government has also planned to adopt this to conserve water and to reduce the impact of urban heat islands. So this is basically a forest inside a urban landscape. So this is also a factual thing that was very much in news. We cannot actually eliminate it or use any logic particularly for these questions. This is where actually your reading the current affairs really helps. So promotion of commercial farming in arid and semi-arid areas, no. Development of gardens using genetically modified flora, no. Creation of mini forest in urban areas. This is the thing. And this particular method doesn't use any exotic trees or plants for that matter. They use the indigenous trees and plants, and they create a mini forest within the urban areas to counteract with the effects of urban heat island, urban heating, then evaporative losses, things like that. So this is one way they do that, and you can quote Miyawaki and biorock technology as technology assisted conservation measures in your GS answers, and that's a very good value addition. I think Kerala government has adopted this thing and biorock technology by Gujarat Forest Department. One more thing in line with this is room for rivers. That's another thing to prevent flooding, especially urban flooding and also flooding in general. So room for river, that's a technology or that's a planning method adopted from Netherlands. That's also undertaken by the Kerala government. So this is the answer. Keep these sort of things in mind. So this helps you in actually answering the prelims question, as well as you can apply them very well in your mains. So that's the one thing. Moving on. Which one of the following has been constituted under Environmental Protection Act? Okay, we know EPA. There are three core, if you ask me, there are three core laws regarding conservation. So first of all, it's environmental protection, mainly addressing pollution. Wildlife Protection Act, mainly addressing conservation. And then we have Biodiversity Act, again conservation and also judicious use of genetically modified crops and the biodiversity information. So these are the three key pillars of ecology and environment conservation in India. Learn about them. Learn about the mandate. Even the wildlife protection has got schedules in which animals and plants are being classified. So you need to know about that. This is worth knowing, but in this particular question, it's actually very easy. You can actually get to that. Central Water Commission. What does that do? Water Commission, if you have been following the class, you can easily understand, because Water Commission basically deals with disputes of water disposal. That's it. Interstate water dispute, those sort of things. Distribution of water. They are not associated with protection of anything. They are associated with distribution of water. Then we have again the last one also, National Water Development Agency. They are also focusing on infrastructure or distribution, those sort of things. So these two are gone. We are left with National Groundwater Board and Central Groundwater Board and Central Groundwater Authority. For such an act, a body coming under it will be having a supreme authority, and it will be a super powerful body. So Central Groundwater Board will be a body inferior to this Groundwater Authority. So there is a good chance a body that is being constituted under EPA will be will be of higher order, and that is been indicated by the authority keyword. So this would be the answer. From these two, I chose this because this is a more powerful body, and such an important legislation will have a powerful body like this. Authority and board. Boards are generally lesser in hierarchy, and authorities are more powerful compared to boards for a same domain. That's it. Moving on. Greenwashing. This is very easy. I think by now everybody will be knowing that because this is always in news. Greenwashing, the easy way we can connect it with is whitewashing. Whitewashing is not at all in a positive connotation, it's mostly in a negative connotation. Whitewashing somebody, or meaning that we are falsely conveying an impression of what they are not really is. So greenwashing is that the same thing. We are conveying an impression that the entities are actually environment friendly even though they are not. A false impression is being created, and it's a malpractice. It's a malpractice, negative connotation. So understand that. Conveying a false impression. First line itself makes perfect sense. Non-inclusion of ecological and environmental cost in annual financial statements. This could be, green evasion or something of that sort. Ignoring the disastrous ecological consequences while undertaking infrastructure development. That is not greenwashing. Making mandatory provisions for environmental cost in. This is a positive thing. Definitely not related to this. So the answer is A only. This is how you arrive at the answer. Greenwashing, whitewashing. What whitewashing does? Negative connotation. So looking for negative practices or malpractices in the statement. This is not a malpractice. These three are malpractices, but creating an impression is given in the first statement, and easily we can arrive at the answer. There is one more term called greenium, which is a positive thing. I'll explain that also. If two bonds are there, two comparable same quality bonds are there, and one is a green bond, the green bond actually fetches more premium for the holder because of its green underpinning, and that premium the bond holder gets because he has invested in a green bond is called greenium. Okay, that could also be a potential question. Greenium. That's the question that we are actually in Gallant IAS. We are actually including questions like this, taking cues from the PYQs, and we are coming up with new keywords where we actually use them and we can train them likewise. So this greenium was asked in our current affairs question this week. So follow our test series if you want to be in touch with the proper UPSC style of questions and to develop that proper insight as well as the knowledge base needed. So stick with our test series, Gallant test series. So that really helps. Moving on. With reference to Indian laws about wildlife protection. Okay, again, it's regarding Wildlife Protection Act or wildlife protection. Wild animals are the sole property of government. On a first look, this seems very much likely. Yeah, wild animals are sole properties of government because, that's how they are protected. Maybe. When a wild animal is declared protected, such animal is entitled for equal protection whether it's found in protected areas or outside. Yeah, that makes sense. Whether or not it's found inside or outside the protected area, if it's protected across the country. So that's it. That's true. So options, we are left with only two options. We don't have to look for the third one. 2 is right. Because the reason why I have eliminated these two is because 2 seems very likely and these two options doesn't have that. But anyways, we'll be looking to the other question. Apprehension of a protected wild animal becoming a danger to human life is sufficient ground for its capture or killing. If it is becoming a threat to human life, it's a sufficient ground for capture and killing. That is there. But apprehension of a protected animal, that's a far-fetched statement. If that animal has raised a genuine concern, if it has attacked or caused danger to human life, then the animal will be, there is a sufficient ground for capture and killing. Not just the apprehension that something bad may happen because of that animal, we cannot do anything. But if something bad happens, only then the animal is, there is sufficient ground for its capture and killing. So that's one issue with this man-animal conflict, because government is reluctant in most cases. Even if there is nothing has happened, they are waiting for something to happen to declare that animal and to declare and capture its animal, that animal. But that's one issue. We cannot actually take away life of an animal just because of the human fear or human apprehension. But in most cases it's rightly placed only, but some cases it's not. So this is more eco-friendly way of approaching things. So this is wrong, and we have arrived at 1, 2 and 1, 2. Wild animals are sole property. Think about elephants in Kerala or elephants or other animals that are actually brought from the wild and domesticated. they are actually not sole property of government. They are property of the owner itself. So wild animals being sole property of government seems unlikely. So that's wrong, and we'll arrive at the answer as 2. Okay. Either this could be sole property is the extreme thing here. Wild animals are generally property of government, but there are exceptions. For example, when the elephants are captured from the wild, or something of that sort is there, or if these birds are kept in captivity, those who have bought the birds, they are wild animals as well. So we cannot say that they are sole property. If they are protected, then there is a whole different story. But not all wild animals are sole property of government. Moving on. Excess of which of the above in the environment are causes of acid rain? Something that we always learn about. Right from our preschool, like right from our 5th standard itself, we have been hearing about acid rain. Such a basic question has been asked here, and we know that acid rain, in order to have acid rain, it needs to have something, something that could be made acidic when interacted with rain. So something that could be made acidic, meaning that ozone won't be there. Ozone doesn't have any acidic nature to it, even if it's clubbed with water. Then we have carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, and nitrogen oxide can actually become nitric acid, or any other form of nitric acid, sulfur dioxide, sulfuric acid. There is a good chance. So these two are definitely there. Carbon monoxide, it's very unlikely, but carbon dioxide has got some acidic property, but it's not entirely cause of acid rain. Carbon dioxide can actually has got acidic tendencies when mixed with water. So carbonification happens, and it can cause acidification. Exactly what happens in the oceans. Excess carbon dioxide gets dissolved and becomes acidic. So this is carbon dioxide is not there. Carbon monoxide is not there. Carbon dioxide is there. Nitrous oxide and sulfur dioxide. So 2 and 4. That's how we arrive at the answer as B. So I think that's all for today's session. In the upcoming sessions, we will be discussing more about environment, and once the subject-wise tests are gone, we will be practicing more on our test-based questions, so that we can actually get ourselves best used to these outliers, bouncer kind of questions.